Yes. Good evening, everybody. We are continuing the discussion. The topic that we are taking up is growth center and growth pole, and we are going to deal with the difference between growth pole and growth center. Differences between growth pole and growth center. The first difference is, you all know who invented it, who proposed it. So this was proposed by Perot, Franco Perot. This was done by Baudivilly. So this was a French concept. This was more of an American concept. So GP is a French concept. So it is by Franco. This one, it's an American concept given by Baudivilly. So he was studying about the South American mines of Minas Gerais, and thereby he got into this concept of growth center. Right. The second important thing is, so the place of study is also quite important. Place of study. This is he studied about France and Paris, with Paris as the growth pole. With Paris as the growth pole. So here, what did he study? The place of study is about Minas Gerais in Brazil. Right. Now here comes the third important part. Here, more importance is given to economic space. Importance is given to economic space. Here, the importance is given to geographical space. Now, you should not be writing just this. You should be describing about what is economic space also. So what will you write with for economic space? That where the factors of production are getting centralized, and such centralization gives birth to propulsive firm or propulsive economic growth. And you should be also talking about Weber's model here. Now, with regard to geographical space, this means any location which is governed by geographical principles or physical characters of the place. Geographical characters of a place, like for example, the resource base of that particular geographical space, locational aspects of the geographical space, etc. So if I'm talking about Chota Nagpur Plateau, I can say that there can be good source of there can be good industries of iron and steel which can be located in Chota Nagpur Plateau region. If I'm talking about Minas Gerais, I can tell you that there are good source of Brazilian iron mines in that place. If I'm talking about Karnataka, I can tell you that the Bellary region is a very good place for the development of iron and steel industry, where you have good manganese ore also. Which is important for the development of iron and steel industry. So generally, how is this? We'll be dealing in economic industrial based geography. So understand basic concept, Anna. Anything, wherever if I have to produce iron and steel, even if I have iron ore to produce steel, I need manganese. So a good iron and steel industry will be developed only if you have the good source of manganese. So Karnataka is one such example. Now, a geographical space, economic space. Fourth one, what is the next difference? Now, growth pole is essentially a national concept. It is usually spoken at the national level. Growth center, on the other hand, it is proposed at the regional level or at the local level. All right. The next concept. This is applicable at the national level, therefore you can expect that this theory will be very much applicable for a small territorial extent country. I repeat, since this is applicable at the national level, since this theory is designed for the national level, it is applicable in a country with a small geographical extent. Whereas here, so France does not have that big geographical extent. That is why it is very much successful in France. But on the other hand, if I'm talking about a country like India, which has got both regional variations as well as cultural variations, I need to be talking about the concept of growth center and not growth pole. We cannot have a national level growth pole in the case of a country like India. So large territorial extent countries will need uniform development. No, I need growth centers. I need a place like Bhilai. I need a place like Jamshedpur. I need a place like Ernakulam. I need a place like Bangalore. I need a place like Mysore. Growth centers is very much necessary. I need to talk about regional level development of growth. I need to talk about local levels of development. And that's why I gave you examples of Bhilai and Jamshedpur, the Jamshedpur steel plant. So I need to talk about growth centers for a country like India. Growth centers can be of any number. So for a country like India, regional local development is very much necessary. It has large territorial extent. Therefore, we need the concept of growth centers and not growth poles. Continuing with that. I think this was fifth one. Yes. Sixth one. On a hierarchical scale, this is quite important. On a hierarchical scale, growth pole holds the topmost position. It holds the topmost position, whereas the growth center, because namak national level we can have only one growth pole, right? So this holds the topmost position. There can be only one growth pole for an entire country as per the theory given by Franco-Pérot. Now, here on the other hand, if I'm talking about growth centers, there can be any number of growth centers, and therefore growth center functionalities are not at the high levels of hierarchy, but at lower levels of hierarchy when compared to growth poles. Hierarchical level, this will be on a much lower scale. What is a hierarchical level? Suppose, let's say plant kingdom. I have trees, shrubs, herbs. Okay, so these are some plants. Under trees, I have one tree called as banyan tree. So this model is what we call it as a hierarchical model, right? So what I'm trying to tell you is, when I'm talking about growth poles, the hierarchical structure, it holds the topmost position. Whereas growth center need not be in the topmost position. It can be at lower levels of hierarchy also when compared to growth poles, right? Seventh point. Growth pole, this is quite important again, signifies centripetal forces. Growth pole has got more centripetal forces. What is a centripetal force? Centripetal force means it is trying to attract things towards itself. Attract things towards itself. It behaves like a big bar magnet. It attracts labor, it attracts investment, it attracts machinery. It attracts further more ancillary industries. Royal Enfield industry, if I have to set up, there will be some rubber industry, there will be some glass industry, there will be some automotive sectors, there will be some electrical equipment. These are what we call it as ancillary industries. Centripetal forces, which means if I am having a growth pole, there will be some more industries which will be getting concentrated in that area, and that I call it as a centripetal effect of the growth pole. So growth pole signifies greater centripetal forces. Growth pole signifies greater centripetal forces, but growth center, on the other hand, it represents more centrifugal forces. It will try to disperse the it will try to disperse the economic activities over a large area. Like suppose, let's say that I have anything, maybe a hospital, a tertiary hospital I have. What is a tertiary hospital? Not like a primary. You will have some complicated operations that will go on successfully, some surgery that will go on. So it's not like your primary health center, right? So if you have a tertiary hospital in one area, it will borrow some works from secondary hospital, it will borrow some works from the primary health center. From here people will be sent here, and from here some after tertiary hospital operations, maybe they will ask you can undertake some regular checkup in a secondary hospital which is nearby you, a community health center nearby you. Maybe in a primary health center you can take some regular pressure measurements or sugar measurement. There is dispersal of activity, be it any form of activity, secondary activity or even service sectors, your tertiary activity. There will be an interdependence and there will be a dispersal of activity. It will not be concentrated in one single place. There will be dispersal of activities. Here, there will be centralization of factors of production. All right, now going to the next one. Something that is very connected to this point, CP therefore has negative effects. Negative effects. Why? Negative effects. Why? Because it will centralize all the factors of production. It will only concentrate upon one single node. One single node alone will develop. The concept of trickle down effect, the concept of spread out effect is not that strong. We have observed it. Scientists have observed it. They said after some time, the growth pole, after some time, it will lead to trickle down effect. No, that was not that strong. Okay, so there is negative results also. One single node alone will be developing very strongly, leading to desertification of surrounding areas. Leading to desertification of resources. Within bracket, resources can be both physical resources as well as human resources. Desertification of resources in the surrounding areas. Here, GC has positive contributions to the society. There will be decentralization of the functions. There will be a regional level growth that will happen. So GC has got positive connotations. Next point is GP, growth pole, is a mere economic concept and is always based on one single thing, which is industries, industrial units. propulsive firms. These are the words that the theorist has himself used. Propulsive, leading industry, propulsive firms, etc. Where is the human aspect in this? Where is region aspect in this? Where is development aspect in this? Whereas in the whereas in the next issue, if I'm talking about growth center, this is based on industries as well as services. I told you it is with regard to secondary and tertiary factors. So here, the human element is also taken care of. Colleges, educational institutions, hospital services. What happened to this slide? Oh my God. Okay. Are we still connected?
Yes, ma'am.
Any issues with the voice? Okay. But what happened to this? So you can see my screen also. That screen is also visible, right? So what is this? Okay, let's see. Okay. I think it's fine. Okay. So yes, so the human element, the education aspect, the hospital aspect, the service-based sector, that is also taken care of in the GC. So broadly, these are the differences that you can come up with respect to GP and GC. All right. Now, one more aspect which I have told you is an Indian aspect, which is R.P. Mishra's growth foci concept. Growth foci concept. So this is an Indianized version of the growth pole and growth center theory. It's not that different. I cannot say growth foci is very different from growth pole and growth centers. It is an Indianized concept, an Indianized theory of growth pole and growth center, which was called as growth foci. But the only difference that he said was growth foci is a lower order region. It is a lower order region, lower order region, or lower order hub of economic and your services, economic and services as factors that functions at block or tehsil level. So it's basically at the local level, at the very minute or microscopic level. If I'm talking about a growth model, I should be using the term growth foci, says R.P. Mishra. So growth foci is a lower order hub of economic activities and service-based activities, where the functions are basically localized. Functions are basically at a localized level of block or tehsil level. And not just that, there is a small difference here. He gives more importance to development of services than economics. He gives more importance to development of services than economic activity. So that's another point. So that's the only thing that we have to discuss with regard to R.P. Mishra's growth foci. So that concludes my growth pole, growth center concept. Okay, growth poles and growth centers is done. Any doubts till this? We are moving to another topic. We'll be moving on to another topic. If there is any doubts, you can ask me right now. The next topic that we are moving towards is regional imbalances. Light-hearted topic, a very breezy topic. Regional imbalances, and we have to read about regional imbalance based theories. Then we have regional development strategies and 3 more topics. We'll see. Maybe tomorrow we shall complete this chapter. Okay, regional imbalances. Any doubts in growth pole, growth center as a concept, growth foci? Okay, so we'll start with regional imbalances. What is imbalance? What is regional imbalance? When one place gets all the resources, whereas another place does not get anything, we can say that an imbalance has occurred in the system, right? So a regional imbalance is defined as a state of disequilibrium, state of disequilibrium in terms of both social aspects as well as economic aspects. In terms of both social aspects as well as economic aspects. So let's say what sort of social differences can occur?
Yeah.
Some class differentiation. These people belong to the upper class. These people belong to the lower class. Where does this difference of class come from? Who said who's upper class and who's lower class? This is a mental construct, right? This is a mental construct. We belong to the upper class, we belong to the middle class, we belong to the lower class. Mental construct. But can we just say that it is just a mental construct alone? No, it is evident in their way of life, it is evident in their standard of living. So there is an imbalance which is being created by a so-called upper class and some lower class people. There is a class differentiation that can happen because of regional imbalance. I repeat, regional imbalance is defined as a state of disequilibrium in terms of both social criteria as well as economic criteria. How can imbalance occur in the social criteria? For that, I'm giving you an example of class differentiation, not an example. This is the social difference, class differentiation. Economic differences can be on the regional level, can be at the local level, can be even within families. So on a broad level, I can say that it can be existing because of the ideologies. What sort of ideologies? Socialist ideology, capitalist ideology. Because of that, there can be certain differences. There can be regional disparity. This is quite important. This word, disparity, this is quite important. Regional disparity. In fact, this word will be repeating, we'll be using it too many number of times when I'm discussing regional imbalances. There will be regional disparity. What sort of regional disparity? When the economy of a country is not extending its benefits to everybody equally, but it is concentrating only on some regions, whereas the other region, when it is left behind, it will lead to what is called as regional disparity. And the economy of a country gives benefits only to some regions, and when it leaves behind the other regions in the country or other classes in the country, it will lead to regional disparity. Regional disparity can be of many types. We will come to that later. We'll do that later. Now understand, there can be interregional imbalances, intra-regional imbalances, cross-country based imbalances. So there can be regional disparities, can be of many types. But one thing is very, very clear. If I'm talking about any form of regional disparity, it can be because of a lack of governmental attention, administrative lacunae, C, because of certain historical factors. I can, like for example, um, some colonialized countries, historically they have been subjugated to violence, subjugated to colonialism. Therefore, there might be some disparity. It can be physical factors also, some mountain barriers and stuff like that. But most importantly, there are many other factors also, but most importantly, natural resources might be lacking. Sometimes it might be also because of lacunae of natural resources. We call it as resource crunch regions. Today morning we saw about something, resource scarce regions, excess of resources, but in spite of it, there is a lack of development. That is resource scarce regions. Then there can be resource crunch regions. Resources are not there, and therefore they are lacking in development. That is resource crunch regions. Put in totality, I can say one word, landscapes never follow the principle of isomorphism. Landscapes never follow the principle of isomorphism. What is isomorphism? Isomorphism means there can be at one place that you will be having too much of resources. There will be excessive resources, good water supply, good mineral resources, good surface area, plains, polar. It will not be mountainous. On the other hand, you will have a mountainous structure. The nature will not cooperate. There will be not be much resources. Land can never be an isomorphic surface, meaning land is always heterogeneous in nature. Land is not uniformly developed. Land is not having uniform spread of resources. There is heterogeneity of landforms. There is heterogeneity in terms of spread of natural resources. This is what we call it as non-isomorphic surfaces. Principle of isomorphism is never followed in landscapes. Not one landscape is not similar to another landscape. Because of this, there will be disparities that will occur in every country, in every society, because one place will have natural advantage, whereas the other place will have physical constraints, Very recently, however, it has been said that the spread of human intellectuals, human intellectual capability is compensating for some of the lack of distribution of resources, for the lack of distribution of socio-economic growth. So what is happening is they are human phenomenon, the idea of man as a human element. We are applying technology. We are applying technology and we are breaking the barriers which is present in the society. And therefore, the regional disparity is slowly getting removed because of the human intellect. Okay, so that is a quick idea behind regional imbalances. That is a quick idea. Now there is one more concept, which is the concept of balanced growth. Very simple. Again, just common sense. Most of this will be just common sense. Regional imbalance after I explain and I don't know. So concept of balanced growth. What is balanced growth? Meaning that there should be some equitable growth, that there should be some balance between economic development, as well as this economic development should contribute to human development. I repeat, not every economic development will lead to human development. Not every GDP growth will translate into human development. There is a gap. There is always a gap. A highly good advanced economy, it does not mean that the human development should also be maximum. Need not be. So there should be a balance between economic development and human development. For that, one person, one geographer, Harrod, he gave a rough equation kind of thing. So Harrod talked about the concept of balanced growth in such a way that, according to Harrod, the growth rate of per capita income, growth rate of economic output, and the growth rate of resources. When the situation, when all three of these growth rates are equal, he calls it as a balanced growth. When growth rate of the income is equal to growth rate of per capita income equal to growth rate of the economic output, when it is equal to the growth rate of the resources, he says that there is a balanced growth in the country. So this is Harrod's equation of balanced growth. This is Harrod's equation of balanced growth. All right. Now we are moving on to, so this you can use it in some form of conclusion for a regional imbalance or something like that. Now we are moving on to types of disparities. Types of disparities. Number one, you can have global disparity or cross-country disparity. Global disparity. What is global disparity? When the disparity exists between countries because of different levels of development, we call it as a global disparity. So America is very much well developed when compared to a country like Africa. So that is global disparity. Then the second category is, please take running notes. Please take running notes. Interstate disparity. The reason why I am also writing so much is because I want you to write along with me. Interstate disparity. Interstate disparity, when there is a disparity between states in a country. Interstate disparity, when there is a disparity between the states in a country, like for example in India, we call it as interstate disparity or regional disparity. So this can happen because of differences in per capita income, differences in standard of living. So here you can give an example of North India versus South India. This is more developed when compared to North India. So agricultural development, standard of living, health indices, everything, South India is far, far better. Then comes intrastate disparity. What is intrastate? Even within a state, some areas will be well developed when compared to another. So that is basically intrastate disparity that can happen because of quality of governance. The government of the day will be concentrating more on Trivandrum, will be concentrating more on Ernakulam, but it will not concentrate much on districts like Wayanad or the northern parts of Kannur or something like that. So that is basically intrastate disparity. Rural areas will naturally have a disparity when compared to the urban areas, right? Rural areas are considered backward areas because they will not have good source of electricity, water, sanitation facilities, and so on. In contrast, urban areas are very much well developed. So this we call it as the rural-urban divide. And you can give your own state's example. If you feel that your own state has got some disparities, then you can call it as, then you can put it under this example. Then comes how regional classification, regional imbalance classification of the word is being done. So the heading is regional imbalances classification at global level. One very simple classification is my developed countries, developing countries, least developed countries. So this is one way of classification. Now, one more person, Ackerman, gave us a specific way of classification on the basis of three criteria. Ackerman in 1970s gave a criteria, three criteria to classify the regional imbalances which is happening across the globe. The first criteria is population factor, resource factor, technology factor. Population factor, resource factor, and technology factor. So on the basis of this, he classifies the world for regional imbalances into the following types. The first type that he gave is USA type. The first classification that he gives us is USA type. What is USA type? So in USA, you know what happens? Like the technology is high. The technology is high. They have good resource ratio also in USA. The population is also very low. So if I'm comparing the population resource ratio, this ratio, population resource ratio, it is having low population resource ratio. At the same time, it is having good high technology rich areas. So that is USA type of countries. So countries like most of the countries of North America, Australia, New Zealand, they fall under the USA type. The second type is European type. What happens here is, here also the technology is high. Here also the resource is high, but the population is also high. The population resource ratio is such that there is low population and high resource. But here the resource is high, but at the same time, the population is also very, very, very high. Technology is also very high, but the differentiating factor between USA type and European type is here population is also very, very high. And the example of these countries would be most of the European countries and countries like Japan. Then comes Egyptian type. Egyptian type of countries. Here what happens is technology deficit. That's not very high state of the art technology is not there. Technology is deficit. At the same time, the population resource ratio is also very, very low. The population resource ratio is also very low. The resource may be there, but it will also be unused. It will also be unused. So I'm sorry, I just made a mistake. One second. Just a second. So Egyptian type, I confuse between the Egyptian type and Brazilian type. Okay. Egyptian type, if you have written things down, then please correct this. There is a small mistake that I've committed. Egyptian type, the technology is deficient. That's correct. Technology is deficient, but the population is pretty much high. The population resource ratio is pretty much higher. Brazilian type resource technology is also low, but the population resource ratio is also low. But here in Egyptian type, the population resource ratio is pretty much on the higher side. Here, and technology is deficit. Here, technology is also deficit, as well as the population resource ratio is very much lower. Okay, so that's the difference between Egyptian type and Brazilian type. For countries of Egyptian type, India is the best example. India is the best example, and Pakistan is another example. So they have severe population problems. They have severe population problems. For countries of Brazilian type, I can talk about Latin American countries and Southeast Asian countries. Now here, the resources may be there, but the resources will not have been sufficiently exploited. So that is the idea behind Brazilian type. And when I'm talking about Arctic type, um, uninhabited areas, mostly the technology is also deficit, the population will also be not that much. So that is the Ackermann definition or Ackermann's classification of the 5 global types of regional imbalances. All right. Now we are moving on to, this is quite simple. We are moving on to factors leading to regional imbalances. Factors leading to regional imbalances. We have discussed some factors. Some factors we have discussed here, but other than we have to describe it in detail. So the first factor is historical factor. The first factor is historical factor. Historically, as I've told you before, some colonialism can be one reason. Countries like South of America, Africa, in parts of Asia, we are having historical reasons. Like, for example, we are having colonialism as one factor. So we are always subjugated by an external imperial force. We are always subjected to a lot of external elements. Colonialism is one such idea. We are not allowed to expand in terms of economic development. Drainage of resources happened because of imperialism. So that historical factors can be one reason for global disparities to have taken place. Second factor is, historically, even during the British times, certain pockets of India have been very well developed. Like what? India. In India, if I'm talking, Bombay, Chennai, Calcutta, 3 places which have been very, very of high interest to the British. So they have developed proper forts there. Because of the coastal attraction, they could conduct, they could have port development, fort development. All that happened with regard to these centers, and they also developed colleges in these centers. Historically, also these 3 centers have been very excellently developed. Okay, that's the second point. Third point is, if you take cities like Delhi, from medieval times, leave British era, from medieval times only, we had the emergence of Delhi as a capital of India, right? So that is one advantage which places like Delhi had. It has a history of administrative capital. It has a history of administrative capital. Apart from this, if I am talking about certain colonialist ideologies, like for example, the zamindari system, the permanent settlement system, the riotwari settlement system, they have also created a separate class of people who possess the agricultural lands, and there were certain other riots എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ നമ്മുടെ general farmers, their tenants basically. So this kind of system which has been imposed by the British, they that also created a class differentiation in the country. That also created a class differentiation, which again created regional disparities in the country. Like if I'm talking about Bihar, there are some people like I don't want to specify, but there are some specific caste which are traditionally having good lands with them, but there are some tribals caste which do not have much of their land. They do not have landed properties with them. Historically, many factors have led to discrimination amongst the regions, disparities amongst the regions. That is historical factors. That is historical factors. The second one is physical factors. Physical factors, like I've given you an example. Northeast area is not sufficiently getting developed because of the mountainous region. Climate plays an important role. Aravallis is not the rain shadow effect of Aravallis has made much of the areas of Rajasthan to be a desert region. Soil is one important factor. Wherever I'm experiencing saline soils, arid soils, laterite soils, okay, forget laterite soils, you can actually indulge in plantation agriculture. But saline soils, or if I'm talking about arid soils, the soil also have a definite role with regard to development of a region. Accessibility is avoided because of mountainous nature of certain regions. Accessibility, transportation. Plains, the northern plains or the coastal plains, they are always great attracted centers for prosperity, for regional prosperity. The entire belt of northern plains is pretty much having good agricultural income. If I'm talking about the Tamil Nadu coastal plains, again, agriculture is very much a good source of income for these people. If I'm talking about the river plains, Godavari, Krishna, Kaveri, the delta region of these rivers prove to be excellent sites for agriculture. In fact, Godavari, Krishna, and Kaveri, three rivers feed most of the South India. Andhra Pradesh, rice bowl of India. So it is because of these rivers. It is because of these rivers. Physical factors play a very, very important role. In spite of this, in spite of certain advantages, physical factors, there have been factors or push that is given to the particular state in terms of green revolution. Government edutha oru bangara step aanu green revolution, but green revolution has benefited only certain pockets of India. So it is said that not just the physical factors, even if I have good climate, even if I have good resources, attitude of the people also decides upon regional development. I repeat, attitude of the people also play an important role with regard to regional development. Like what? Green revolution was an extremely successful thing in the northwestern parts of India, but not in eastern India, It was very, very successful in northwestern parts of India, but not in eastern India. Why? Because this region, it is filled with Marwaris. It is filled with Gujaratis, Jains. Now, these people, even if you give them soil, they will sell it and make it into gold. They are such smart people in India. They are the smartest people of India. Their business knowledge is something that none of us have. The business knowledge of Marwaris, the business knowledge of Jains, the business knowledge of Gujaratis, Saurashtras, they have such a deep business knowledge, and they are very, very hardworking. These people are very hardworking. You have to give them that also. It's not just out of luck. It's not just out of business knowledge. They are very hardworking also. That is why northwestern parts of people, they capitalized on the effect of green revolution. They capitalized on the effect of green revolution, whereas the people of eastern India, Bengalis, they could not do that. Odiyas could not capture it very successfully. Northeast India is completely left from the sphere of green revolution. When I'm teaching about agriculture, I will be teaching about all of this. In fact, more of this. Why a green revolution is not successful is a very important question. So attitude of the people is also very, very important in terms of regional development. For that matter, Biharis. Even if you take CSIP, how many of you have interacted with many ground level construction workers of Kerala? They will be either from Bihar or they will be from Tamil Nadu. Have you ever had the chance of interacting with certain construction workers in Kerala? Mostly from Northeast also people are coming. So, but mostly it will be either Biharis or people from Tamil Nadu. Why? Attitude of the people. Attitude of the people. You should be, even if they might have good source of income at their native place, they will have good land in their native place. Tamil Nadu people, they will have a good quality land in them, but they will still come and work in a different place for that extra source of income. Biharis, when Biharis enter into any state, Andhra Pradesh, I've been there. When even in Tamil Nadu, even in Kerala, when Biharis enter, none of the local people will have income because they are so hardworking. They are so hardworking. Local people will not have jobs after that. Biharis are someone who are very, very hardworking, and they will use every opportunity. They will use every opportunities. It is said that when Biharis enter into Bengal people themselves did not have much of the jobs. So that shows the attitude of the people. So attitude definitely decides regional development. Bihar, we can never call it as a not that developed state anymore. It's highly developing. Odia is another example. Bihar plus Odisha. These two states are best examples of how development is taking place in India. Odisha is going to be the next Kerala, mind you. It's going to be the next Kerala. It's developing on another level. So if you leave behind the 4 southern states, one state that we should be all looking, if something is happening in Odisha, make sure that you are reading the things in paper, because it's that important. That state is very important. Right. Let's go to them. I'm deviating. Let's go to the next factor, economic factor. Someone has asked me something. One second. What are examples of the Arctic type? Okay. This from the name itself, I thought you would have realized Arctic type, mostly the Arctic region countries, the Arctic pole, the Antarctic pole, the desert type of countries, like you are talking about the Saharan types of desert type of countries. Basically, these fall under the Arctic desert type. All right. So economic factors. Number 3, Economic factors. Economic factors will include, suppose let's say that you have good quality of industrialization, good quality of agricultural pattern, good quality transport network. All of these will decide how much economic development is there in a particular place. What is it? Trade patterns, industrialization, agricultural development, transport network. If all of these are good, my regional imbalance will be very, very minimalistic. So economic factors is also very, very important. Again, one more thing. If suppose I have low standards of living, if suppose historically I am in a very poor state, there is low standards of living, which means, which indirectly means my per capita income will be low. How much amount of money I'm earning per capita income will be low, which means in general, that place will have low wage rate, which means there will be a poor per capita consumption of materials also. Poor per capita consumption patterns will also be very, very poor. Per capita consumption patterns will also be very, very poor, which means the demand for new goods will be very minimal. Demand for new goods and services will be very, very less, which means again, when the demand, when I'm not purchasing, suppose let's say that I am living in a hut, a small, thatched roof hut. I am having a chulha. I do not have a modern gas stove. I do not have a fridge. I do not have a refrigerator. I do not have anything. My standards of living is very low. What will I do? If I have good sources of income, I will naturally buy a fridge, buy a washing machine, buy a car for myself. No, my per capita income is also very low, which means in general that place will have low wage rate, which means in general my per capita consumption will be very, very less. I will not eat pizza. I will eat porridge, kanji. I will naturally go to very, very, very small things. My demand for new goods and services will be very, very less. I will not be asking for a car. I will not be asking for a washing machine. I will not be asking for a microwave oven. My demand for goods and services very less, which means I will be always caught in the vicious cycle of poverty, which means I will be always caught in the cycle of poverty. I will again have low standards of living, and the cycle will keep on continuing. The cycle will keep on continuing. So economic factor is also an important factor for regional imbalance to continue in a given place. The next one, fourth one, demographic factors. What is it? Demographic factors. So let's say that the sex ratio is very poor, low wage rate is there, unemployment is maximum, high dependency ratio is there. All of them, in one way or the other, will make sure that the regional imbalance, the regional disparities will be maximum in that particular region. I repeat, high dependency ratio, low wage rate, poor sex ratio, unemployment is maximum. These are certain demographic factors, poor health indicators. These are some factors which will lead to, or which will help in continuance of regional imbalances. Number 5. Cultural factors. Socio-cultural factors. Primitive way of living, tribal way of living, primitive tribal way of life. Traditional orthodox society. When you have a primitive tribal life and a traditional orthodox society, what do you mean by orthodox society? You will not accept anything new. You will not accept any new scientific innovation. You will not accept any changes in terms of your way of life. That is your traditional orthodox way of living. So there is a low acceptability of innovation will naturally follow. Low acceptability of innovation. Primitive tribal society or primitive tribal way of living will lead to subsistence level of economy. It will lead to poor educational and health facility. These will also persist or continue certain regional imbalances. And then comes political factors. So government lacunae, administrative lacunae. Suppose your collector does not take actions over tribal issues. The collector of the region does not take action with respect to left-wing extremism activities. Administrative, this is what we call it as administrative apathy. So you have empathy, you have sympathy, you have apathy. Apathy means indifference. Indifference, what is indifference? Whatever happens, I don't care. That is indifference. If your collector is like that, then that's a very poor situation. So administrative apathy, lack of governmental attention, governmental maladministration. Okay, like what happened with regard to green revolution, improper execution of policies. Example, green revolution. Geopolitical wars or geopolitics, that's enough. Geopolitics of the world will also indirectly affect the happenings of a particular country. Like what? In 1990s, we had the economic crunch. We had the economic crunch, which we were facing. We were on the verge of going to apply financial emergency, but we did not apply financial emergency. We brought in the LPG reforms, right? There was an oil crisis that was going on in the world. We did not have enough money to spend or to import oil. In such a scenario, how will we go and pump money or invest money for the regional development? Are you understanding this? When we do not have money to undertake the import activities, when our Reserve Bank is not having funds to pay the settlements, import bills, when we do not have money to pay our import bills, how will there be money to invest in social developmental activities? So geopolitics will also lead to reduced governmental expenditure for development of backward areas. I repeat, geopolitics of the world will also lead to reduced governmental expenditure for the development of backward areas. Example, 1991 economic crisis. Then seventh factor is again closely related to the fifth factor, religion factors. Religion factors. Certain religions, certain religious dogmas, religion perceptions. I write it. Religious dogmas or religious perceptions are also responsible for regional imbalances. Let's say, take for example, some of the activities or some of the values that has been undertaken by certain religious communities, maybe Muslims, maybe Hindus. They have some age-old orthodox thinking. They say that if we do this, it is against the religion of Islam. If we are doing this, it is against the religion of Hinduism. Such things will be detrimental for regional development to take place. So religion is also one of the important factor. All right. So these 7 factors, you have to be writing it in detail. All right. Any doubts in this? We are moving to something else. Any doubts you have with any of these points? Okay, now we are moving on to consequences of regional imbalances in India. Consequences of regional imbalances in India. Give me a minute, I'll come back right now. Fine. Consequences of regional imbalances in India. This is quite important from your examination perspective. The first thing is there are some interstate and intrastate agitation which happened because of intrastate agitations which happened because of regional imbalances in India. Like what? Uneven regional development in any state will lead to fights, will lead to agitations. Like what can happen? Let's say that if the North Kerala is not that developed with respect to South Kerala, there will be agitations which will arise sooner or later. Maybe not today, but maybe 5 years from now. There will be intrastate agitations. Uneven regional development, that's the point here. Uneven regional development will lead to several agitations within the state or between the states. When it happens between the state, we call it as interstate agitations. When it happens within a particular state, we call it as intrastate agitations. Like very recently we witnessed Andhra Pradesh splitting, right? Andhra Pradesh had split into Telangana and AP. So this was because of intra-state agitation. The people felt that certain portions of Andhra is not that well developed, and certain portions of Telangana is not that well developed. In fact, people in Telangana felt that Hyderabad, the people of Andhra Pradesh is functioning because of the presence of the capital city, Hyderabad. So why should we share Hyderabad with them? Hyderabad belongs to people of Telangana. Why should we share it with them? So that sort of mentality crept in. And similarly, the people of Andhra also felt that because of if you witness the state of Andhra Pradesh, if I'm drawing the erstwhile state of Andhra Pradesh, Telangana was somewhere here, very in the northmost end, Dana. So, one second. Telangana was somewhere here, towards the northernmost end. So I have my coastal Andhra here, my Vijayawada, that region. I have my Chittoor region, the southern side. So the Rayalaseema region was there. The coastal Andhra was here. Telangana was somewhere here. So what happened is, when Hyderabad is so far away from the other portions of Andhra, naturally the people in this region felt that the state administration is only concentrating on Hyderabad, and that is why we are not getting as much attention. The government is not focusing its attention towards these regions because the capital is so far away from the other region of Andhra Pradesh. So it's better to split Andhra, let them have Hyderabad, we will have our own capital, and they decided the capital to be Amaravati. And then they decided, if we have a capital somewhere here, if I'm having a capital somewhere here, we will have decentralized development. So that's the reason why they had the agitations also. So that is one example of intrastate agitation. All right. Now coming to the next consequence of migration, next consequence of regional imbalance, which is migration. So where does usually migration takes place? Migration will take place from the backward rural areas towards the urban areas, for example, rural urban migration, because urban areas will obviously provide more sources of income, more job opportunities, etc. So in short, I can say migration or the labor will be pulled towards area of good economic activities. But what will happen to the rural regions? They will be functioning as desertified regions. They will be desertified of human resources. They will be desertified of natural resources. They will not have centers of development. So migration, in one way, it is also detrimental, as it will be detrimental to some, in some cases. Notice this very carefully. In some cases it will be detrimental, as regional imbalance will occur when lot of youth population move from the rural regions towards the urban regions. Migration. Third important thing is social unrest consequence. Third important consequence, social unrest. There will be differences in terms of prosperity. Your Naxal affected areas are basically examples of social unrest. The youth in that region will feel we are neglected for a lot of time. Therefore, we have to rebel against the government. Naxalism is one such example. Example of social unrest. Pollution is another consequence of regional imbalance. What will happen because of pollution? There will be because of a development of a growth pole, because of a development of a growth center, centralization of factors of production will occur because of the development of a propulsive firm or an industrial development. This will lead to more and more air pollution, water pollution, etc. So if you take the examples of New Delhi, Bombay, Chennai, everywhere you're having the problem of pollution. Yes. So pollution is happening because of the centralization of factors of production and development of industries. Then you will have housing and water problem. So establishment of several industries at one place. Again, agglomeration effect. Agglomeration effect. What is it? Establishment of several industries getting concentrated at one place will lead to shortage of housing, will lead to water scarcity problem, etc. And the next important thing is sixth one. Oh shit. Okay, never mind. Frustration amongst the rural youth. Frustration among rural youth. Why? If they do not have sufficient employment opportunities in their native villages, if their only employment opportunity is agriculture, naturally they will be frustrated. You are not skilling them. You are not giving them opportunities for sufficient skilling. Skill development programs are not conducted for the rural youth. At the same time, some educated youth, when they are moving to the urban cities, and these people of the rural areas, when they do not have sufficient employment opportunities, it is quite natural for them to be frustrated. The next one is underdeveloped infrastructure. Underdeveloped infrastructure. Rural backward areas, they will not have sufficient infrastructure, whereas all the infrastructure will be concentrated in the growth center. All the infrastructure will be concentrated in near your propulsive leading industries. That is also an example of regional imbalance. Eighth one. Agglomeration will lead to aggregation of labor, capital, infrastructure, investment from the government side, government investment, etc. Let's say, because of all this, because of such aggregation, more investment will be pouring in one region, whereas there will be less developed pockets which will happen in the nearby regions. What do we call this? We call this as the backwash effect. That is also one of the reasons for development of regional imbalance. That will also be a consequence of regional imbalance. Both are true. Both are true. Okay, so these are the consequences of regional imbalances which is happening in India. All right. What sort of advantages, now have the heading is, what sort of advantages or advantages faced by regionally developed areas? What are the advantages faced by, or you can write it as advantages faced by developed regions? Number one, you will be having a natural advantage. What sort of natural advantage? See, first of all, why or how did that region get developed? Because they might be having some favorable climate, favorable topography, favorable mineral resources. So inherently, you can say there is a Inherent എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ what is inherent? Inherent, can someone translate inherent in Malayalam? Inherent advantage, innate advantage, that which is present within themselves. Inherent advantage എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ that advantage is present within themselves in terms of soil, in terms of climate, in terms of mineral resources, that we call it as a natural advantage. So there will be natural advantages for that particular region. Acquired advantage. What is acquired advantage? Like because of the agglomeration factor, there will be development of infrastructure, establishment of industries, transportation, etc. That is acquired advantage. Yes, there is industries developing. Because of the industries, there will be some more industries, ancillary industries, which will get developed. There will be infrastructure which will get developed. There will be communication which will be getting developed. Communication network, transport network will get developed. These are all examples of acquired advantage. Then there will be comparative advantage. There will be comparative advantage. Meaning, suppose let's say that Delhi is very well developed. Delhi is very well developed. So I have UP, something like this. So I have the state of UP. So what happens is, parts of Uttarakhand is there. Somewhere here I'll be having Delhi. So Western UP is very, very well developed when compared to Eastern UP. Why? Because of its closeness to a well-developed industrial location, a well-developed region like Delhi. This is comparative advantage. Nearness to a well-developed region will also make the surrounding regions to be getting some advantages because of this nearness. What advantage? People will go from Western UP to Delhi easily. So Western UP has got some advantages, whereas Eastern UP has been completely facing the effect of backwash. Cumulative advantage. Cumulative advantage. And finally, agglomeration advantage. What is agglomeration advantage? First of all, basically one industry will also draw the development of other industries. Always remember the example of Royal Enfield bike or Maruti Suzuki car or something like that. So one industry will need other support of some other industries also, and that is when you will be attracting capital investment. You will be attracting some heavy industries, some basic industries, some electrical equipment industries. So that is agglomeration effect. What is cumulative advantage then? Cumulative advantage is after agglomeration taking place, after the development of agglomeration, there will be a development of certain social sectors, development of education sectors, development of some tertiary services, development of some good institutions for skilling the youth, development of infrastructure can happen, urbanization can happen. Those are cumulative advantage, after effects. They are basically after effects. After agglomeration, what else has happened? That is basically cumulative effect. So these are the advantages enjoyed by any developed region. All right. Right. Now we are moving on to, is there any doubts? That's it. Is there any doubts that you have till this? If at all there is any doubts, we can resolve it. One more small topic, a very small topic. Relative characters of relative characteristics of developmental disparities. What will happen in less developed countries? What will happen in developed countries? This is again developed countries. This is again something that can be asked in your examination. So watch it out. Less developed countries and developed countries. So the first thing is, because of developmental disparity, what will be the consequences faced in less developed countries? What are the consequences faced in developed countries? What is the difference between them? I'm comparing just the less developed and developed countries. Here I'll be having low per capita income, right? Low per capita income. Here I'll be having high per capita income. The capital availability, there will be very, very less here. So capital availability is my next point. It will be very, very less here. Capital will be easily available in the developed countries. Third one, there will be uneven distribution of wealth. Even within the countries, there will be uneven distribution of wealth. Here, I'll be having wealth being evenly distributed within the countries. Uneven distribution. Here we'll be having equal distribution of wealth, evenly distributed within the individual countries. Like if you take, for example, India, there is an uneven distribution of wealth. Whereas if I'm taking the countries of USA, more or less there is an equal distribution of wealth. More or less, I cannot say one person is extremely impoverished. No. So there is more or less some kind of equal distribution, at least within the country. Primary industries will be concentrated more here. Primary industries like farming, forestry, they will be occupying a major share of the economy. On the other hand, here, manufacturing and service industries in the developed countries, manufacturing and service industries are predominant in the economies. I can say subsistence level of farming will be practiced in less developed countries, whereas here extensive commercial farming will be done. Extensive commercial farming, subsistence farming, commercial farming. Most of the people here in the less developed countries, most of the people live in the rural areas, whereas here urbanization is quite predominant. Overcrowding, poor housing, these are all some common facilities, common things that you can observe here. Overcrowding, poor housing facilities, poor sanitation facilities. These are certain things that you can observe in less developed countries. Similarly, you can observe high levels of illiteracy, whereas here you can observe good levels of literacy activities. Gender disparity is extremely high here. Here, women's emancipation. Women's emancipation is higher than in the developing countries or in the least developed countries. Roughly, these are the relative characteristics of developmental disparities that you can observe in less developed and developed countries. All right, nothing much. As I've given you, as I've told you in the beginning, it's a very breezy topic. The next topic that we are going about is Regional imbalances theories. Theories of regional imbalance. Theories of regional imbalances. So we have finally accepted, yes, there is imbalance even within countries, between countries, within the countries, within the states, between the states, etc. We have accepted it. So to understand the regional disparity, to understand the regional imbalance, there are many theories which have been formulated. The first theory is, so this theories of regional imbalance, it's not mentioned in your syllabus, but it's actually regional imbalance അവർ കൊടുത്തിട്ടുണ്ട് അതിന്റെ അകത്ത് വരുന്ന ഒരു ടോപ്പിക്കാണ് theories of regional imbalances. So that's pretty much important. After that, those three topics are very subjective. I mean, they are very not that important, but theories of regional imbalance is very important. So follow me closely. Maybe we'll take one more class to complete theories. In the next class, we'll complete this theories. But follow me. Theories of regional imbalance. The first theory is, as one theory which you all know, which is environmental determinism. It's a deterministic theory. Environmental deterministic theory. Basically, according to this theory, it is quite simple. Natural resources, they are much wherever it is more, that areas will be more developed. That is environmental determinism from the perspective of regional geography. So from the perspective of regional geography, natural resources, wherever if it is more, those areas will be in a better position when compared to the other areas. So example are very important. Quick question, are you guys taking running notes? Even before, even for this thing, I'm sure that you guys are taking some running notes. That's the reason. Oh yes, thank you. Okay, okay, then we are good, right? Let's yes, environmental determinism, follow me. So very simple. According to this theory, naturally gifted areas, they will be having good source of, they will be naturally in a good advantage. You call it as a natural advantage. For example, examples are quite important here. First example, northeastern parts of USA is more developed than the western areas due to the rich availability of coal and iron ore, etc. So northeastern parts of USA is much more developed. That is example number one with respect to USA. Example number two, Western Europe is very well developed when compared to Eastern Europe. So if you observe the areas of Britain, Sweden, Finland, Norway, this portion of Germany, France, Italy, this portion of Europe is very much well developed when compared to Eastern Europe. That is, if I'm going to Siberia, if I'm going to the eastern parts of USA, portions of somewhere towards the eastern sides of Europe, like around my Russian side, if I'm going there, it's pretty much not that well developed. Third point, example number three, deserts of Peru, Amazonian rainforest. You cannot indulge in many industrial activity in these regions, and therefore they are at a comparative disadvantage, or they are at a natural disadvantage because of the many physical factors. So these are the theories of environmental determinism along with their example. But more important than that is criticism. Example is important, criticism is important. What is the criticism of deterministic theory? It is the theory of environmental determinism theory. What is the criticism of it? What is the opposite of it? Which school of thought is against environmental determinism? It is the theory of anybody? Which school is against the what is the opposite school with regard to environmental determinism? It is the school of possibilism, right? What is possibilism? It is the school of possibilism. It's a school of possibilism which says man is an active agent. Man being the economic and technological man. He can do anything. He can bend nature. He can bring about development, technological development, and he can exploit the situation to his own advantage. That is the school of possibilism. Now they say, as a criticism, it is said that some the areas of Amazonian rainforest are cleared for timber exploitation. So there also industrialization is possible. Commercial exploitation of timber is being done right now. Similarly, with regard to pockets of Siberia, they said because of the Trans-Siberian Railway, the pockets of Siberia is also getting very well developed. Similarly, they say since you do not have much resources, wherever there is a lacunae of resources, wherever there is a lack of resources, development will not be that possible. Ennaanu environmental determinism parayunnathu. Now critics say, then what about Japan? Japan is a country which does not have that great environmental resources, but because of the technological advancement of the people of Japan, because of the attitude of the Japanese, development is very well possible in the area of Japan. So there are many criticism, and the best criticism is the theory of possibilism, possibilistic school of thought. All right. So the first theory of regional imbalance is environmental determinism. The second theory is superficial theory or climatic theory of development. Superficial theory or the climatic theory of development. What is superficial theory? So basically, climatic theory of development says that the people belonging to the temperate regions, they are they naturally have the advantage of climate. These regions are good for human development, and therefore all the developed countries are in the temperate region, says superficial theory or climatic theory of development. It is a natural theory. It is naturally said that since tropical nations, we sweat a lot, we are always persistently in a hot climate. The human brain cannot work in such hot environments, and that is why they say that the tropical climates are not good for human development. On the other hand, temperate countries, your Scandinavian countries, European countries, North American countries, Canadian countries, they are very good, very naturally, climatically, they are fit for human development. So this is the theory of climatic theory of human development. But again, one best criticism is one best criticism is Southeast Asian countries. Criticism. Example I gave you: European countries, North American countries, Canadian countries, Scandinavian countries. They're all best examples of development in temperate regions. Coming to criticism, Southeast Asian countries, they are not in the temperate belt. They are not in the temperate regions. They are present in the tropical regions. But in spite of it, they are very, very well developed. They are well developed when compared to many of the Central Asian countries, which is present in the Central Asian countries includes Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, uh, Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, Ukraine, basically Central Asian countries. Central Asian countries, Southeast Asian countries versus Central Asian countries, they lie in the temperate belt. These countries lie in the tropical belt. But when I'm comparing this with this, it is the Southeast Asian countries which is very well developed. So this climatic theory is wrong here. So this is one criticism. Okay. The second criticism is North India versus South India. Which is more developed? Obviously, South India is more developed. But which is having a temperate climate? Which is having a temperate climate? North India is in the temperate belt, whereas South India is in the tropical belt. But in spite of it, the South India is much and more developed. So that is another criticism. The next criticism is Singapore lies perfectly within the tropics. In fact, equator passes close to it. Now, in that case, Singapore is very, very well developed. They do not have many resources also with them, but they are best examples of a well-developed country of the world. How is that possible? That is one another criticism. So these criticism shows that climate is not the only deciding factor for regional imbalance. The next theory is racial theory. Number 3, racial theory. So what is racial theory? Basically, this says the Westerners are racially more superior. Racial superiority of the West. Racial superiority of the West. So they say the Westerners are racially superior, whereas the Eastern people are racially inferior people. So they say that the poor countries are mostly the third world countries which will have the inferior raised people. Inferior East will mostly the third world poor countries are having racially inferior people. As a result, most of the advanced economies of the world are present in the West because of their racial superiority. But this, they say that many countries like India, China, they are on the path of development. They are on their path of development in spite of being not Westerners. We are not Westerners. We are not white people. We are brown people. But in spite of it, we are on the track of being developed nation. So that's this racial theory is also criticized on the basis of examples of China and India. China has yellow raced people. India has brown raced people. But both of us are very well developed. Not developed, at least we are in the progress of being a developed country. So the criticism is it is a very highly communal approach. It is a communal approach, a racist approach, and this no longer is true. And then we have economic theories. After this, we are having some economic theories. Number 4, economic theories. The first economic theory is neoclassical approach. Neoclassical approach. Neoclassical approach says that the efficiency of transformation, follow me closely, the efficiency of transformation from resources to a finished product, the way of transformation from a basic raw material, a resource, to the finished final good, that determines the development of a nation. So if the efficiency of transformation from the basic resource to the final product, if it is very efficient, then that country is very well developed. If not, the country is not well developed. So they say for this transformation to occur, for this transformation from raw materials or basic resources, for it to be transformed into a final good or service, if the efficiency is pretty high, then it would be an advanced economy. If the efficiency is low, then it is a not so advanced economy. It's a developing country, or it is a least developed country. In short, the neoclassical approach depends on factors of production, depends on the efficiency of the usage of factors of production. Okay, and they say for the transformation to become efficient, for this point is important, for this transformation to become efficient, you need to pump more capital investment. If you have to break out of this problem of developmental disparity, you need to pump in more capital investment so that the transformation of the transformation efficiency is improved. The transformation efficiency is improved. Now, criticism is that why are you worrying only about the capital investment? If you need to improve the efficiency of this transformation, why are you always worried about pumping in more money? Why can't you improve the standards of the labor? Why can't you bring in efficiency towards the educational and skilling aspect of the labor? Why are you just worried about capital investment? So this approach, the criticism says, this approach focuses on maintaining capitalist order of economy. I repeat, this approach focuses on maintaining capitalist economic order. Only when you are talking about pumping in more money, you cannot bring in regional improvement. Regional development can be brought about only when you pay sufficient amount of concentration towards your human resource as well. If you are just worried about capital investment, nothing is going to take place. This is a hardcore economic theory. Neoclassical approach is a hardcore economic theory. It is highly a capitalist economic order theory. It is a capitalist economic order theory. All right. So that is about neoclassical approach. Now 4B. We are moving to the next theory, Samuelson theory. again an economic theory തന്നെയാണ്, but he focuses more on some other factors of economy also. Okay, so this theory states that regional imbalance is because of interplay of a number of factors, like number one, it's an interplay of a number of factors like number one, population. He says greater is the population, greater will be the imbalance. More is the population, more will be the imbalance. Example, UP. So the state is pretty huge, the population is also pretty huge, and therefore there are many agitation, intrastate agitation that is happening, regional disparities that is happening. So population is one factor, says Samuelson. Then he says distribution of natural resources. If the resources is concentrated in only one area, development will take place only in that place, whereas the other parts of the state will be underdeveloped. Example, Bhilai steel plant, Chhattisgarh. Third factor, number 3, technology. Here he says technology and capital formation. So in technology, he says only if you are bringing in state of the art technology, and you if you are skilling the human population to match up to the technological levels, development will be sustaining in the long run. Development will be sustainable in the long run. Skilling is necessary, state of the art technology is necessary. What will happen one without the other? If you're not having technology but you are having skilled labor, they will not have sufficient places to work, they will not have sufficient employment opportunities. Think of the other way. If you have technology, state of the art, top notch technology, but there is lack of skilled labor, then you know what will happen? Unskilled labor, they will not know what to do with the machines that has the top notch technology. Both are dangerous. So you need to have machines, you need to have skilled manpower. Both should be there, otherwise there will be disparity. Finally, and the last thing that he talks about is capital formation, not information, capital formation. Capital formation. Yes, we need some amount of investment also. So apart from the human aspect, apart from the resource aspect, he's also talking about capital generation. So this is kind of a balanced economic theory. This is kind of a balanced economic theory. All right. The next theory that we have is number 5, spatial content theory. Spatial content theory. This one, I will explain one thing today, which is core periphery model. So let's discuss this. Spatial content theory, I have two theories. This is very important from the examination point of view. Out of all the theories of regional imbalances, spatial content theory is the most important one. Take a different colored pen, mark it as very important. There are two theories, 5A and 5B, that is cumulative causation theory of Gunnar Myrdal and core periphery model by Friedman. This I have already explained. If some of you could remember, core periphery model I have already explained when we were discussing about population and settlement geography. But we'll be discussing again that in the case of regional geography perspective. So the first thing that we have is take down the first exam, the first one, 5A cumulative causation model, cumulative causation theory by Gunnar Myrdal, 1956. This theory tried to explain the different stages of development in terms of a region. It tried to explain the spatial differences that happens in case of regional development, as well as the stages of growth of regional development. So this theory, that is point number one. Second point, this theory, it's actually based upon how Western countries progressed from subsistence agricultural economy to advanced industrial economy. So from a rural life to an urban life, from the subsistence agricultural economy to an industrialized economy. How did this transition take place in respect of Western countries? So that is the basis of study that was undertaken by Gunnar Myrdal. He said that there are three stages for the development of a particular region, and in that process he went on to explain how regional imbalances occur when a region is getting developed. I repeat, he has given a three-stage model to show the development of a region, and in that process he has explained how regional imbalances occur in any given regional development process. Stage one. Equilibrium stage. Stage one, equilibrium stage. So in this stage, the whole landscape will have uniform development. It will be a static development. Okay, there'll be not much of a development. It will be a rural agrarian society. There'll be lack of development. So it's a period of stationary growth. There's a period of stationary growth. Nothing much will happen, but forces of development will begin to operate in this stage, and it will begin to the initial forces of development will begin to operate in this stage, and that we say as the development or the beginning of the stage two. Stage two. He says regional imbalance will be beginning to occur in this stage because of two factors. Regional imbalance in this stage will begin to occur because of two factors. A, cumulative causation. B, backwash. So what is cumulative causation? So it means centralization of cumulative causation means centralization of factors of production, human resources, natural resources, skilled labor. Everything will be concentrated in one given place. Take for example, Chennai. Take for example, Bombay. Take for example, Calcutta. It will start to accumulate all the investment, capital, labor market. Everything will be concentrated in one single pocket. There will be growth that will be happening at the cost of the surrounding areas. That's the important word, underline. growth will happen at the cost of the surrounding regions, which we call it as backwash effect. This and this will happen hand in hand. One will happen along with another. The surrounding areas will have a backwash effect. Thus, at the cost of the surrounding region, the central core region will develop. The surrounding regions, what will happen? They will experience backwash effect. They will be experiencing deprivation. They will be experiencing deprivation. They will be experiencing desertification of resources. Desertification of resources. Thus, we can expect the core area alone to be well developed, whereas the surrounding areas will be areas of neglect. This will lead to what is called as regional imbalances. Now, the third stage, stage 3, that is the stage of trickle down effect or spread out effect. Now, what will happen here? What will happen here? There will be dispersal or decentralization of economic activities from the central region. Decentralization or dispersion of economic activities from the central core region. And there will be diffusion of the factors of production towards the underdeveloped segment. There will be trickling down that will happen. Spreading out will happen. Whatever capital investment that has accumulated in the core region will spread out to the other areas. People who have migrated, the labor who have been attracted to the central core region will start to move away to the surrounding regions. Thus, it will lead to, follow me closely, it will lead to spread of periphery of big cities, and thereby it will lead to overall economic growth of that entire region. So this is what has been given by cumulative causation model of Gunnar-Myrdal. Criticism. We have to move on to criticism. Trickle down. This, though it has been mentioned in the theory, trickle down has not been that effective in terms of the real life. In terms of practical application, trickle down has not been that effective. Governmental role has been neglected in this theory. Governmental role has been neglected in this theory because even if you observe this theory, everywhere we are talking about factors of production. Where are we talking about governmental intervention? But in real time, government also plays a very, very important role. So governmental intervention, governmental role has not been mentioned in this 3 stages. Spatial content theories are essentially humanistic models. Essentially humanistic models with an economic element in them, But the truth is, they are explaining region, this humanistic model, the spatial content theories are explaining imbalances using just the human element and capital element. But imbalances are actually deeply laid down in historical factors, cultural factors, religion factors, socio-cultural factors, political factors. But this theory, special content theory, just talks about economic element and some amount of human labor element. Nothing more than that. So that's another criticism of this theory. All right, any doubts till this? Tomorrow we'll be looking about core periphery model of Friedman. Is there any doubt in this? Right, then we'll wind up the class, and tomorrow I think yes, tomorrow I think we'll be completing chapter number 4 and we'll be moving on to chapter number 8, regional development and planning from the Indian perspective. Have I missed out something? One second. No. So yes, that's about it. Tomorrow we'll be seeing about core periphery model. And tomorrow, come prepared. We'll be having to write down some notes also. So come prepared for that. Yes. Thank you so much. Have a nice day. Thank you.
Ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am.
Yes, tell me.
Ma'am, human geography actually 2 books refer to Rupa Made Simple and Majid Hussain.
Yes.
Actually, the chapters, the book just like everything book.
Oh, like that. Okay. I believe I was when I'm taking class only, I mentioned what to read from what. Okay, anyway, I'll explain. Human geography, perspectives in human geography. I think sir would have given you the books. Population and settlement geography. The best book is. I forgot to give you notes. No. Yes, the one printed material that I gave you. Follow that. And then after that, some rural settlements I have to yet to give some material. I will give you material for that. Mostly population and settlement geography. The material that I am giving, the printed material, the PDF that I am giving, follow that because that's more efficient. What else? Regional planning. Regional planning also, the material that I am giving, the print, I will be sending you PDFs that you follow. So mostly the book that you should be following is Human Geography, Majid Hussain.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, the any number of materials that we give, the book that you should be following is Majid Hussain, Human Geography. Population and settlement geography. Remember that one thing that I gave for urban geography?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, apart from that, there should be one more material that I should have ideally given for rural settlements, which I forgot. Maybe I will give you later. That is from Models and Theories, Models in Human Geography by Majid Hussain. But again, a book of Majid Hussain only. So essentially, Majid Hussain is the book that you should be following. Regional planning, coming to this, not many books give you detailed theories of regional planning. Pero Bodivili Growth Center Growth Poll has been given in many books, but apart from that, many books do not give much in detail. So that's the reason why I will give you PDFs. Make sure that you take printed material, print out of those PDFs and read it. And for chapter number 8, I will give you notes.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Anything else?
Geography of India, Pullar's book.
Pullar's book. Matram, that's enough.
Okay, ma'am. Rupa Made Simple.
Rupa Made Simple is for paper 1 geography, human and physical geography, provided that you have sufficient time, especially human geography, etc. Rupa Made Simple part 2 is very good. Provided that you read the first Majid Hussain, you can go for Rupa Made Simple.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yes. So that's it. We'll meet tomorrow. Thank you so much. Bye.